get through these harsh moments in their life. Hezekiah is operating during one of the more difficult moments in the history of Israel and Judah. Israel collapsed first under the weight of their disobedience and their corruption. They fall to the Assyrians, who God himself raised up and allowed to be an instrument of punishment. But then Judah later falls to the Babylonians, and they are carried away into Babylonian captivity. But Hezekiah, in the face of evil, Hezekiah in the face of wickedness, Hezekiah in the face of uncertainty, he remains faithful to God. I think for a moment we need to stop there, because this sends a message to you and I that in the midst of the most trying situations, all of us need to remain faithful to God. We should not let the news, the economy, the devastation, the crime, the escalation of evil make us turn our back on God. We should not allow the sinister plots of the enemy to make us feel as though everybody else is doing it. What's the use of trying to live right? Because everybody else is doing this. Hezekiah remains faithful to God. And what I like about reading the history and reading the biography of Hezekiah is that Hezekiah came from an ungodly background. His father Ahaz was an ungodly man, a wicked man, an evil man. Here is a man that closed the temple of the Lord. Here is a man that put up pagan images and wooden images and paganness all over the countryside. Here is a man that stopped the worship of God. And this is the father of Hezekiah. But Hezekiah turns out to be a godly son. So that tells me that it doesn't matter what you come from. It matters who picks you up along the way. It doesn't matter how you started out in life. You may have been born in an ungodly situation, but when God has a plan for your life, it doesn't matter whether mama wasn't saved, daddy wasn't saved, uncle, aunt, brother, or sister. When God has a plan for you, he's going to pull you out and do what he needs to do in your life. God can use you. You can be the man, you can be the woman that God will pull out from the family and put his spirit on. So you might be connected to a non-believer or somebody who demeans you. But what God has for you, it is for you. Tell your neighbor, what God has for you, it is for you. Somebody else have been adopted and say, well, I won't be able to make it because I was adopted into the family. I don't have that DNA. I don't have all of the stuff running through my blood that they had. But that's all right, because Jesus himself was adopted. Joseph adopted Jesus, and Jesus turned out pretty good. So it doesn't matter whether you adopted or not. It doesn't matter what kind of family you were born in. You can be born again. To tear his garment, he went into mourning and puts on sackcloths and sent messengers to Isaiah and said, go to Isaiah and tell him what Sennacherib said and say what you want to. You need a prophet like Isaiah. Every one of us need a man of God. Every one of us need a prophet of the Lord, that when things are tight and when things are devastated, we need somebody to give us a word from the Lord. They gave the letter to Hezekiah. Hezekiah has the letter in his hands, and he goes up to the temple and spreads that letter before God and said, Lord, check it out. This is what he said. This is what they said they're going to do. And Lord, I don't have any power and I don't have any strength to come against this great multitude. But I want you to know, Lord, that this is what they said. And when God read the letter and when he heard the cry of Hezekiah, God said, now you've made me mad, and I'm going to show you that I'm God. Now you've really messed up. You mess with my son and you mess with my daughter. You see, every child of God, every believer, you've got a name written in your Lamb book. You got a name written on your forehead. You got a name written in your spirit. God knows who you are, and he knows your name. And since he knows that you're a child of the King, he cannot let you perish. Sennacherib and his men got together and planned the attack, and they said in morning time, we'll meet him and defeat him down in the campsite. But God heard their plans and said they are planning to get you in the morning. But God said before morning comes, I'm going to get them at night. And God sends an angel and says, get them at the nighttime. Before they wake up in the morning, before they get their artillery, before they get their plans together, destroy them tonight. And he sends one angel to destroy 185,000 soldiers. You can't stop my God. Don't ever get in a hurry, because God knows how to give you the victory. He'll give you the victory while you're sleeping at night. There's no need for you to toss and turn and talk about what tomorrow is, because God can turn your midnight into day. He can turn your sorrow into joy. And if you just hold on a little while longer, weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. What things soever ye desire, when you pray, believe that you receive it, and ye shall have it. Yes, when any two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything, God said, I'll do it. You got to learn how to pray. And when you pray, oh my God, I feel the Holy Ghost. Oh, when you pray, you might as well get ready. Your enemies are going to fall. Your blessings are going to come. He's going to give you the victory. He prayed, and when he prayed, God heard his prayer. And what I like about it, that Isaiah the prophet gave him the bad news. The bad news came from the Lord, but God interrupted the bad news and gave him some better news. Don't you know that if God sent the bad news, he can take it back? If God sent the bad news, he can turn it around. Sometimes bad news comes, but the God I serve, he knows how to turn it around. Here Isaiah is walking out. He gets past the front court. He gets to the middle court, and by the time he puts his foot one on the middle court and getting ready to lean to the other court or the outer court, he hears from heaven, and God says, go back and tell my servant I heard his prayer. I hear somebody today in your spirit. God is telling you to go back. He's got a go back blessing for you. The news started out bad, but I hear him saying, go back. You thought it was going to mess up, but it said, go back. Go back and tell my servant it's going to be all right. Yes. And not only am I going to give him another week, not only am I going to give him another month, not only will I give him another year, but 15 more years I'm going to add to your life. Don't you know, God don't know how to do nothing small. When it blesses you, it's a big blessing. 15 years, 20 years. I'm so glad that God turned the bad news around. Don't ever worry. Don't ever shake. Don't ever tremble when you hear bad news. This bad news was his health getting ready to die, but your bad news may be the lights getting ready to get cut off, maybe your car getting ready to be possessed, maybe your children going to jail. Your bad news may be something different, but if God turned it around for Hezekiah because he prayed, if God turned it around for Hezekiah because he believed God. I believe that he's the same yesterday. I believe he's the same today. I believe he's the same forever. I just believe that he loves me just as much as he loved Hezekiah. I just believe that if I hold my peace, he'll fight my battle. I just believe that the Lord will not let me get in a situation and let the devil walk on me, because that's against scripture. The devil's not supposed to walk on us, but God tells us to walk on him. And when you do what the word says and stop putting your feet on the head of the devil, God sees you obey him. And when you pray, turn your face toward God. Lift up your eyes to the hills from which cometh your help. All of my help, all of my help, all my help come from the Lord. And as long as God is helping me, I know it's gonna be all right. You don't have to walk around nose up in the air. You don't have to walk around talking about my God is an awesome God and sticking your chest out like he's your personal God and don't belong to anybody else. He's big enough. He's your God and my God. He's big enough. He's the God of the universe. He's big enough. He's the God of the world. But one thing I know, I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor is she begging for bread. One thing I know, he promised to be with us always, even to the end of the world. One thing I know, that he'll turn it around. Whatever your problem is, get ready, get ready, get ready for a turnaround. Get ready for God to interrupt some bad news. Get ready. Yes. Take the bad news you got. Take the text message. Take the email. Take the I am. Put it before the Lord. Spread it on the altar. Look what they said. Look what they talking about. Tell it to God. Spread it before the Lord and let God check it out. And when God checks it out, he don't. I'm finished. But lean on your neighbor and tell your neighbor, neighbor, if God checks it out, he'll work it out.
Friends, I trust that you were blessed by that message, the mad news that was interrupted by God. You can have this message in its entirety by writing me, Pastor Milton R. Hawkins, Temple of Deliverance, 369 G. Patterson Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee, 38126. Ask for the offer number that now appears on your screen. For an audio cassette version, send a gift of at least $5. For CDs, send a gift of at least $12. And for DVD or VHS, send a gift of at least $15. You also may use your credit card by dialing 1-877-369-6157. That number again is 1-877-369-6157. Ask for the offer number that now appears on your screen, and when you dial in, please have your credit card ready. Somebody is standing by now to receive your call. Well, I look forward to seeing you on next week. Until then, the blessing of the Lord be upon you. We bless you in the name of the Lord. God bless you.